All right, excellent. So once again, welcome everybody. It is so nice to see everybody on the call this afternoon, and hopefully everybody is doing well. This afternoon, we're talking about the topic of business and why now is the best time to start a business. Now, some of you on this call this afternoon may be affiliated with our company, Young Living, but if you are not, that's perfectly fine as well. I'm going to give, between Dana and I, and I'm sure some others will have some things to share. We're going to give you guys some practical information on why now is the best time to start a business and some of the benefits that come along with it. I want to start by just introducing myself because I see a lot of faces on here that maybe I haven't had an opportunity to meet in person. My name is Anthony Mott, and I am Dana's husband. No doubt you guys have probably interacted with her quite a bit. I do a lot of the things behind the scenes, but one of my passions is actually finance and business. I do not come from a finance and business background, but over the past 5 years, I have been doing a lot of studying when it comes to finance and business for one of two reasons. The first one was not only to benefit myself and my family, but the second was because there's not a lot of individuals of color that are taught finances, nor are we taught business, especially here in Michigan where we're located. The automotive industry is very, very huge. And so what a lot of people are trained to do in our area is go to school. You can go work in the plants and make a middle, what do they call it? Like a middle income. Or you can go to college and get your degree and then go work for somebody else. We're not taught necessarily that there are other options out there. So whether you're just getting into something or looking for something, this information still can benefit every single one of you here. So I think that this is something that's interesting to talk about. And I actually enjoy seeing people come on as we talk about this particular topic, because it's something that's so lacking, not necessarily just in people of color, but in this country as well. Like, a lot of people are just not educated on the fact that there are options. There are options for us to get to be financially healthy and to still pursue something that makes us happy or that adds value to our life. So that's what I'm very passionate about sharing. Young Living has been the vehicle that we have chosen to get us to that position. So I look forward to sharing that information with you guys. I do want to have an opportunity for everyone to go around and kind of introduce themselves and maybe just give a little bit about yourself and what you're looking to get out of today's discussion. So since Dana's unmuted, I'm going to have her start, and then I just pick based off of like how people appear on my screen. I'm not picking on anybody, but we'll go down the line and just really quickly, if you can introduce yourself and explain maybe why you're here.
Yeah, so I will go ahead and start. It's funny because financially, I feel like me and my husband grew up just slightly different. Now, granted, I definitely had the plant mentality. So, my father worked for the plants, my grandfathers worked for the plants. Everybody was in some type of skilled trade in some way. But from a young age, my father, he was that person that like saved every penny and like was very frugal. So he taught us young, like, how do you stretch that dollar? Like, how you gonna get the most out of what you can with that dollar? And so for me, I always kind of mentally had this idea that I'd rather work less and make more money if it's possible, right? So even when I went into the trade that I went into, I'm a licensed esthetician. The reason I did it was because I'm like, wait a minute. You told I can work for an hour and make $100 versus work a whole day. Oh, I'm definitely doing that. Let me just do one facial, or let me do 3 facials a day, and then I can maximize on it. But like most young people, I didn't really understand when it came to credit. I didn't really understand certain things like that. So even as a couple, we made a lot of bad decisions, bad financial decisions that left us in a space where it was like we were always chasing that mighty dollar. right? So it was like that rat race of soon as you get the money is gone. Soon as you get the money is gone. And it wasn't until he started really educating more in the finances where we decided, if anyone's familiar with like Dave Ramsey style, like that's one of the things that we kind of base our finances off of. So for us, we had a goal to pay off our home. We do live in a condo. And he had a vision of buying his dream car. But we wanted to live minimally. And so we made a lot of adjustments. And as we understood finances, for me, that's where this played a key role. Because while Young Living is a large portion of what I do, it's not the only thing that I do. And I think when we understand leverage and how those things can play a part in all of the things that we do, we can really expand ourselves financially and even leave something greater for next generations to come.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, she was almost going to give away like that portion of my story about my car. But no, that's okay. I bought a Tesla this year. That was a car that I wanted for a long time. And it was because of the financial decisions that we've made over the past 5 years that I was able to do that. So I have to work on trying to applaud those things and congratulate the wins when we get them.
Yeah, because I was gonna say he already told his story. He didn't say that, so.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to pick on Lydia next because you appear first on my screen. You must have been like the first or second person in here. So.
Oh yeah, I was basically sitting in the rain with the hood on, waiting to get inside. So hey everyone, my name is Lydia Epic and I live in Memphis, Tennessee. I originally hail from South Florida, and for me being on this call, it's just really awesome to be in this space with other business-minded men and women of color. I love that we have this opportunity to really look at different ways that we can, like you said, leverage and maximize our time. I'm slowly but surely learning that as much as we tend to say that time is money, it's not necessarily true. There are ways to be able to get your money to work even while you're sleeping or while you have to take some time off that this model that Young Living has can provide, and it does so in such a unique and rewarding way. With the work that I do, I started in Young Living as a way to be able to bring more cleaner options to our home. It paired really well with our lifestyle because we've always been more of a plant-based family, and now it's expanded where I am taking that to help others to learn about wellness coaching for themselves in terms of their diet, because I'm a firm believer that you got to get your insides all nice and clean in every possible way, whether it's physically, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. Get all of that clean so then you can be your best self on the outside. So that is why I'm here. So happy to connect with y'all and cannot wait to hear the rest of your introductions.
Excellent. Thank you, Lydia. I love hearing other people's perspectives, and it's good energy in the room, so I like that. I'm going to go to Sabrina next. You must have been like the second person in the room. I'm not picking on anybody. It's just I'm going in order here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sabrina Hamilton, and I am in Palm Coast, Florida. I started with Young Living for the business. It was because I wanted to take vacations. And that was the main reason I joined. Is someone said, this is a way we can take vacations. I was like, all right, sign me up. But then I realized how much I needed it for my own health. And so that was a key thing. And then the financial possibilities has me very intrigued. I am learning more and more about finances every day and how to handle mine because I've made a ton of mistakes. So being on here, I love being able to share my story, to be able to help others avoid some of the pitfalls that I have made. And that's why I'm here.
Excellent. I love that. And that's the thing. I think it's one thing to be able to acknowledge too that this is a journey, and we've all made mistakes. And to get to the point that we are now, hopefully we've learned from them and we've chosen a good way to be able to correct those and improve our future outlook. So very good. I'm gonna go next to, it says iPhone.
Alicia.
Alicia. Okay. I'm assuming your name is not iPhone.
I'm sorry. I'm usually on my tablet or whatever, but I just wanted to hop on real quick. I got introduced to Young Living for my business. Dana and Jocelyn, they came on, did an incredible job of convincing me to incorporate this into my skincare business. And I enjoyed it so much or whatever, so I just stayed connected with them. But I also came on here to get the business side of my business so I can make good decisions in my business, my newfound business.
Excellent. I love that. I love that you've, so I take it you're fairly new to Young Living, probably within the past few months.
Yes, yes.
And I love that not only do you love the products, but you've found a way to integrate it into what you do, but also now you're looking for more future prospects to be able to enjoy more abundance. So that's excellent. I'm going to go next to, is it Chandra? Okay. Chandra, are you getting a pedicure?
No, that's what she do.
Oh, I'm like, I know that chair.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out how to unmute. Okay, can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Yep, go ahead.
I just forgot. Hi, my name is Chandra Moore, but I go by Star Moore, which is my middle name. So I am here to just learn about business and get involved. I want to join Young Living. Some years ago, I worked with Dana at a spa. And so I'm all about, this journey of being healthier. And I figured if I'm going to use the products myself, why not do business? And obviously this is giving me a platform just to learn how to start and do business. And eventually the goal is work for myself and have several businesses. So I'm here to learn.
Nice. Excellent. Well, it's good to, I've heard Dana talk about you in the past. It's good to put a face to the name, Chandra.
Nice to finally meet you.
Cool. All right, I'm going to go over to Tavis. Hey, Tavis.
Hello.
Hello. So,
My
Tavis,
name.
you're getting picked on now.
Okay. My name is Tavis, and I am from Detroit, Michigan. I'm new to Young Living and loving it, loving everything about it so far. I don't have an entrepreneurial background or business background. Don't come from a family with a business background, so I'm just here to learn something new. Or just learn, period.
Nice. Excellent. Well, we're glad to have you with us. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to go to Candace next. Hey, Candace.
She was driving, though. I don't know if it's safe for her to.
Here I am.
Okay.
Hey. I am still driving, but I had the phone next to me to hit unmute.
Okay.
So I actually got into Young Living by accident. I really just wanted the oils and the diffuser, and I didn't even really realize that Young Living came with that, like being in the business came with it. So I actually just really do the oils for myself right now, and I jumped on because I wanted to hear more about business in general, what the business conversation was going to be about. I am currently working on a business planner where it just helps people start their businesses and how to get incorporated in things. So I'm doing that currently, but yeah, okay. I'll probably be able to incorporate Young Living into my website, or at least be able to put a link on there when I start the planners too. So I think that'd be pretty cool.
Excellent.
That's awesome.
Oh, and I also got the master's in finance. So yeah, the business background is part. That's
nice.
part of the business background goes.
Look, we're gonna be coming to you.
Right. Feel free to fact check me if you need to.
You said feel free to what?
Feel free to fact check me if you need to.
Okay.
But it's nice to have, and I always appreciate having people of different backgrounds on here. I think that's so important no matter where your jumping off point is, all of this information is still valuable. I have Tashina on here. I know Tashina was in the car. If you'd like to share, Tashina, go ahead. If you're otherwise disposed, that's fine as well.
I am available. I am in the hotel room now. So I have always had an entrepreneur's spirit, definitely. I mean, got my lemonade stand, wanted to caddy, had a newspaper route. So we saw our parents doing rental homes. So multiple streams of income was something that we always grew up with. When I was a teenager, I would come up with all these ideas, but I would never, ever implement them. Like, I would go to a mall and I would see, they don't have vending machines or candy here. I should do that. And then I just never did it. I always thought I'm going to get in the rental property, and it just never, ever really manifested. I have a degree in business administration marketing. I enjoy introducing products into new markets, but I ended up in the automotive field, and I did all types of different home-based businesses unsuccessfully in the past, but I always kept a lot of the education and wanted an additional stream of income. And so coming into Young Living, I didn't necessarily know about the business. And with my business degree, I distinctly remember them stating that word of mouth advertising is the best form of advertising when I got my business degree. And so knowing that and being with a product that changed my life immediately, number one, physically, number two, giving me energy, and then later emotionally, more than anything, and seeing how if anyone is trying for self-development and some emotional growth, they have to have the oils. I started sharing immediately and probably got within 6 months very conscious about where I want to go. And I'm now a silver with Young Living, which provides me the opportunity to do amazing, awesome, like business trips like this one, where I'm getting some pictures done for my Instagram and for my speaker kit as a health and wellness coach, and get all the products that I want. And I'm currently working on gold and replacing my daytime income in the automotive industry, and then getting additional streams of income because I'm now a certified self-development coach and all this other good stuff. So I love talking about the topic of business because there is not a business that I have not seen, especially when we, like all the entrepreneurs that are on here, there's not a business that I have seen that the oils can't make it better. So that I love to talk to other entrepreneurs.
Excellent. Thank you, Tashina. I appreciate you sharing that. And yeah, I hope that we can bring you guys some value this afternoon. So I'm going to share my screen here because we're going to share some interesting information with you guys. Now, I actually did borrow this from Tashina, but I have my own little take on it. So if you see her picture throughout here, just recognize that's her and it's not me. Okay, can everyone see that? Okay, excellent. I want to start by going back to 2008, 2009. I'm going to play the millennial card, because Dana and I are both millennials. But 2008, 2009, here in America, we saw a big, great recession, right? There was a huge scaling back in jobs. The stock market plummeted substantially, and it took a long time for the business sector to recover. For a person like me, we graduated in the early 2000s. If you went to college right after, by the time you were graduating college, was right about the time that recession began. So a lot of the jobs that people that are around Dana and I's age were going for in college, they either no longer existed, or you were going to do that job for much cheaper because the company had to reduce wages to stay afloat. When that happened for Dana and I, that really changed our perception of how we viewed making money. And it wasn't necessarily to say that having a job was bad, but people had to get creative in looking at ways to make money. And fortunately, around that time, even though the economy was starting to decline, you know what was booming? The internet. So looking at this graphic here, it shows many companies that were created in that space. So 2008 all the way to 2010. That was technically considered a recession. Yet all of these companies were developed within that time period. So it's really interesting. I remember I have a cousin that actually introduced me to network marketing years ago. And I thank him every time I see him because it was one of the best things he could have done. But it was interesting because during that time, he helped me to appreciate that there was a paradigm shift going on. So how people did business was changing. Your brick and mortar stores were starting not to completely go away, but they were less emphasized. You had big box chains that were starting to appear more. So you had like your Walmarts and your Costco's that were popping up. They were putting a lot of the smaller businesses out of business. But when the internet came along, the internet was kind of the great equalizer because it was the first time that people could do business either internationally or nationwide without leaving their home. Think about how big and how much the internet has changed the way that we do business now. I think more specifically, who would have thought in 2008, or if you would have asked me in 2008 if there would be an app on my phone that I could get a taxi ride from a complete stranger and I could pay with my credit card and I could do it all over the course of all through the internet over the course of 5 minutes. Like, we would have thought that was insane. That's crazy, right? Look at Airbnb. Who would have thought that we'd be staying in other people's homes and they found a way to monetize that, right? Look at Groupon. Who would have thought that there would be a company that literally makes money off of selling discounted activities or goods and services that already exist, but by collaborating it all in one space to make it easy for you to find. So when that recession occurred, it forced people to get creative, and out of that creativity was born good businesses that are extremely popular and profitable to this day. So keep that in mind. One of the other things I want to challenge you to think about is there was a book that I read, and if you have not read it, I absolutely recommend it. It's called The Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert T. Kiyosaki. Has anyone read that book? Okay. I'm going to see if Dana can put it in the chat a little bit later, or I'll put it in the chat myself. It is an excellent book because essentially it dictates how there's 4 main ways that people make money. And it's not to say that one way is better than the other, but it allows you to see all the pros and cons, the advantages and disadvantages of being in certain sectors. So for example, you have the employee that there's a lot of convenience in just getting up, showing up to work on time, knowing that they're going to cut you your check based off of the amount of hours that you work. You don't have to worry about your investments because they may give you a 401k or a 403b. It's very simple. And that's where a good majority of the people in this country are. They live in the employee sector. But you can also have a self-owned business from the standpoint of you are the business. Maybe it's something like your barber, or I think, Chandra, you mentioned you're an esthetician. And nail
and
massage.
Yeah, everything but hair.
Everything but hair.
Don't forget lashes.
Yeah, so you're essentially self-employed. And the nice thing about that is you have a little bit more flexibility and freedom of how you choose when to take clients, how much you charge for your services. But on the flip side, if you don't work and put your hands physically on somebody, you don't make money, right? I think of the profession here of a doctor. A lot of people consider a doctor to be a very prestigious and very maybe sought after profession because it usually is very financially profitable. But a doctor is still self-employed. If he doesn't take patients, he doesn't make money, right? When you get into looking at business owners and investors is when you really start to see something called leverage created. And this is why I have this slide up as we talk about this, because it's the business owner that starts to see not only their money do this, but their time freedom does that as well. And that's something that's really big. When you think of what we're seeing now because of COVID and everything like that, not only are people concerned about how they're going to be able to put food on their table, because a lot of jobs have been eliminated that may or may not come back. I mean, look at the hospitality industry and the restaurant industry. It took a massive hit, right? I think I heard not too long ago Disney laid off a huge portion of their contract workers. Now the airline are laying off a lot of their workers, almost in an unprecedented amount that we haven't seen before. And I'm sure that these individuals are concerned about how they're going to be able to provide for them and their families. Oh, I'm sorry. What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. There's somebody that was waiting to get in the room. I'm really bad at that, so I apologize. But when you think about from that aspect, now is such a good time to have something like network marketing, have a business like network marketing, because I love this business model. Now, I know that over the years, there's been some stigma when it comes to network marketing. I'm sure if I went down the line, everyone's probably had maybe that one person that was like really pushy, that sold you a really crappy product, or got you involved with a company that it was clearly a pyramid scheme and there was no product. We've probably all had that experience, right? But when we look at the model of network marketing, Robert T. Kiyosaki, who actually wrote that book, he really actually is a huge proponent for it. Dave Ramsey, who's also a huge, I don't want to say guru, but he has a huge presence in the financial space, has also been a proponent for it, as well as a few other notable names. And for these reasons here. Now, I love the first one there, that you can build it part-time and anytime. On your 9-to-5 job, if you still work a 9-to-5 job, I work as an electrician as well. But they tell me when I have to show up to work. Whether I choose to comply is a different story. But they like to try to set the work hours, right? They set the amount that you're going to be paid per hour. So we know that there's only so many hours that you can work in a week. Literally, if you work every single hour available, your income is still capped. And no doubt there was training that you had to, or some type of qualification that you had to have as well to even get that job. With network marketing, you can build it part-time. So I always recommend that even if you're working a 9-to-5, or let's say that you got laid off and you're collecting unemployment, it's still an excellent time to start a network marketing business. Why? Because you can build it part-time, right? That's I think of almost like the apprenticeship model, because anytime that people have started businesses, there was someone here that owned a business. Wait, was it Chandra or Candace? I'm sorry. You both run your own businesses, and Lydia, right? When you guys got started with your business, were you good at it?
Still figuring it out. It's all good.
But the nice thing about that is that doesn't prevent you from making money, right? And that's some of the beauty in network marketing. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Lydia. You were going to say something?
No, I was going to say exactly. That's the thing, is that it gives you the ability to learn as you go. And as you expand and as you get better at it, then yeah, it just goes from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Chandra, I don't want to assume that you've jacked people's nails up in the past when you were first learning, but you still got paid in some aspect, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So there is a learning curve that even when you're getting into business, there's a learning curve. You're not going to be good all at once. It's going to take time, but that's the beauty of network marketing. You can build it over time. You can start it part-time, and you can build it from anywhere. We have people from different parts of the country on this call that are partnered with Young Living, but we're not all working in the same location. I think this one is really huge too. Here, you can launch it for as little as $500 to $1,000. Now, I will say this is something that is a great asset of network marketing, but it also sometimes does us a disservice, because sometimes people have the mentality that just because I paid $500 or less, if you're joining Young Living, or if you joined Young Living, you paid what, less than $200, that this business is not going to pay out, or that it's not worth it. And that's just simply not the case. There are numerous stories. I look on the, I look in the gallery mode, and I see how many people here that have probably made, you know, how many times the amount of money that they've invested in this business. So it is a valid business model, and it is really worth it. The advantage is you can start it for very little money. You're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. I think that's a big one too. In a typical business setting, there's usually a lot of competition, right? Because everybody wants that top position. Outside of being the CEO or the owner, there's always going to be that competition. So you may have an individual that may be maybe a little bit withholding of certain things, maybe of themselves or education, because they want that top spot. And then you can have the spot right below them. That doesn't exist in network marketing, because when the people on the bottom benefit, the people at the top benefit. So there's a lot of incentive for an individual to help their team and their people succeed, because we want everybody to benefit. And then the tax deductions. Now, I don't know if we have any CFOs or accountants on here. But I will say this one is sometimes where people get a little dicey, because those tax deductions instantly can give your family a raise. Think if you could add an extra $6,000 to your household, what you would do with that money. Now, I think Sabrina said she joined because she wanted to travel, right? Did I get that correct? Sabrina, where could you go with an extra $6,000 in your pocket? Where would you go?
I would go to Alaska, Spain, Africa, Aruba. Those are the first 4 places.
Nice.
I think 2 of those I liked. I'm not going to tell you which ones. The other 2, you can more than have those. But do you know the average person, or for the average couple or person to go on vacation, usually is about $5,000 to $6,000, depending on where you're going, especially if you want to leave the country. Having that additional money in your pocket makes a huge difference. And by creating these valid tax deductions and making sure that you're keeping track of your expenses, making sure you have your books in order, you're going to be able to lower your taxable income and give yourself a raise. And then with time and success, your income that's produced will grow substantially. And we'll talk a little bit about that a little later on. Now, we touched on some of these myths here, so I'm not going to dwell on them too much. But I also think that we need to address myth number 1 and myth number 3, because I was working with a guy the other day. We talk a lot about the stock market and our portfolios and things of that nature. And he was asking me what I thought about a stock. And so I looked at it. I looked at it, what it's evaluated today. And I looked at what it was doing 6 months ago. And he said, man, like, I wish I would have bought that stock 6 months ago, because it grew by like 600% in the past 6 months. Did research, couldn't really find out why, which is kind of irrelevant, but it really showed me how sometimes our mindset is that if we get in on the ground floor, like, that's going to be the best path to make money. And that's just not always the case. With network marketing, especially with Young Living, I think the market penetration is so low right now that even though the company has had tremendous growth over the past 25 years plus, there's still so much further that we can go. I think it's funny. I've heard people in Michigan tell us, like, everybody in Michigan does Young Living. And then we got like the actual numbers. Maybe Tashina, if you're available, I think you remember what it was. What was the market penetration for like Young Living in Michigan? It was so
1%.
1%. I think Florida is a little bit higher, and I think Texas is the largest. But when you look at that market percentage, there's still so much room for growth. And so it's so much opportunity there. That's a great reason to be involved. I think all that goes hand in hand with myth number 3, because a lot of people feel like you need to be in the right place at the right time. So if I would have been in the room when someone was talking about launching Google, you know how rich we'd all be? Do you know your chances of being in the room with the person that's launching Google? You have the opportunity to create your own personal Google with your own personal network to go on and grow. So timing the market is not important. What is important is developing skills to be able to grow a business and to also treat it like a business. This is, even though network marketing is a different business model, it is still a business model. So we have to treat it as such. Now I want to show this just for a little bit because it shows direct sales in 2017 where the most growth was happening. We see it more specifically in Asia with 85 billion. But if you look at North America is still trailing far behind. There's still a lot of room for growth in the direct sales industry. So there's couldn't be a better time to be involved. Yeah, go ahead.
I did want to just add, because I remember I was doing some just market research, and one of the things that I was reading about is it's a different mentality in Asia, right? So for most of the Asian cultures, and their idea is if they are an employee, it is to get enough money so then they could own something. Like that is what they're taught from a young age. And so when they're presented with a business model, a legit business model, they gravitate to it. And so I really feel like this is a powerful slide because it helps to put legitimacy behind this structure of business as well. And you have to really put it across from what are the people in your circle, the people you grew up used to mentality-wise, right? So just because maybe if you are in the Midwest, the majority of the mentality was that plant mentality, we got to understand that they're not going to be able to see this big picture in the same way somebody who grew up with a more business mentality is going to readily see it. So it might take more time. It might take more education in order to see that big picture.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason that we do these. I mean, before I saw this slide, I'm like, I didn't know. I just assumed that, you know, America probably was going to be at the top. But for the reason that Dana mentioned, it is a mentality thing, you know. So learning to shift our mindset is very important. That's why that book that I recommended at the outset, that's really what shifted my mindset, because it helped me understand why network marketing was such a good model, but also it helped me understand about the way that I was making money before and where I wanted to go, how to cross that bridge. So I highly recommend it if you guys haven't had an opportunity to read it.
Another thing to add is if you have connections in Asia, go ahead and connect with them too, because Young Living does business there too.
Young La Fong is how I believe how they pronounce it, right? The company they partner with.
In China, yeah.
So let's talk about why the health and wellness industry, why something like Young Living, because in 2019, they reached $4.7 trillion in the health and wellness industry. Now, I think this is something that's interesting because there are other health companies out there that we've heard from, and they will show this statistic as well. But I'm not so much concerned with, you know, how big that number is, and that's a large number. I look at this number here. I don't know if you guys can see my mouse. Can you see it? I look at this number here. The health and wellness industry growth rate is 6.4% annually. Do you know what the ROI would be if you were invested in a stock that grew at 6.4% annually? That's actually not a bad return on your investment. So when we look at getting involved in an industry, as far as business, to be able to get roughly a 6% return on our investment, that's actually pretty good. And that's 6.4% of such a large industry. That's why that other number is kind of important. $4.7 trillion for the industry, but growing at 6.4%. So keep that in mind for our finance people on here. Now I want to talk. I want to change gears and talk more specifically why Young Living, because everyone on here joined Young Living that has joined Young Living joined for a reason, and even if it was the business side, Young Living as a company is still a phenomenal company. And some of the things that sets them aside, we know there's other health and wellness companies out there. We know that there's other oil companies out there. And I'm going to tell you guys just, and this is like me not necessarily being biased, Young Living just simply hands down is the best. Young Living has some of the best people working for them. And as far as meeting people, Young Living just hands down has some of the best people. Young Living owns their own farms. So when we look at in this industry, there are other oil companies out there. Very few, if any others, own their own farms, which means that they don't have a lot of control over the quality of the product that they're getting. Young Living not only owns their own farms, but they do a lot of testing, a lot of research. They send it out to third-party testers to say, hey, can you test and make sure that our product, can you test it for not only quality control, but for the efficacy of it? Can you make sure that it is what we say it is? And they have over 25 years worth of experience. These companies that are popping up now that are trying to get into the market, a lot of them are ran by people who are my age, which means that they would have been 10 when Young Living came out. Young Living has way more experience. I think when I look at like the board, and there was like a disconnect for me at first when it was like, oh, everybody's old, but everybody's experienced. You know, like everyone brings something to the table because they've had time to experience and bring their wisdom to Young Living. So I think that's absolutely phenomenal as well. We mentioned the low startup cost. So it cost you what? A kit purchase to get started? Less than $200 depending on the diffuser that you pick. I think that's phenomenal to be able to have a business that you can start part-time, not part-time, part-time, to be able to add to your family. Young Living and some of the other financial choices that Dana and I have made is the very reason why I was able to purchase my Tesla. Having that additional income has just really changed the trajectory of our lives for such a low startup cost. And then in this one, we don't talk too much about the products themselves, but if anyone's on here that uses Young Living products, like how many agree that Young Living has some of the best products out there? Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to their oils, I love their I love their supplements. I use them quite frequently. Oils was one of the first things that like I was opposed to when I came in. And I don't know if anyone's like heard me tell like my Young Living story. I'll save you guys the long version, but essentially to me, I'm like, these oils smell like booty butt cheeks. I don't understand why Dana keeps putting them in the diffuser. This is just not for me. It's like really girly, like everything smells like really frou-frou. But after getting used to them and learning the science behind them and how like Gary, when he was alive, put so much hard work and effort into like constructing these blends and how they're like designed for a purpose and not necessarily a profit. Like I was like, this is amazing. Like this is really cool. So they have over 800 products. We've chose to incorporate them in our lifestyle, not only just for the financial benefit, but also for the benefits that they bring our family on the wellness side. You had something to add? Okay. So I want to talk now to the point of the business aspect of Young Living and why this is such a good company to be involved with. Now, this gives you a breakdown of the average monthly income based off of certain ranks within the company. And if anyone's had any run-ins with network marketing in the past, you know that they're just like other companies, there's going to be certain levels and gold, platinums, or what is the Mary Kay one that gives you the pink Cadillac? That's going to exist across like the board, right? But I think it's important that we look at what the monthly average payout is for those ranks, because it helps you to visualize and say, where am I now? Like, what is my average monthly income? And whatever I'm doing now, what does that look like? And where do I want to be? Just take a minute and think about that. What am I making on my 9 to 5, or even if I'm self-employed, what am I making and where do I want to be? If you're familiar with the comp plan for Young Living, most people hit the rank of silver, and that's when their business really starts to take off. But also think about what you could do in your household with an extra $2,000. When COVID-19 happened, one of the first things that the government did in their first stimulus package was increase the payout for unemployment pay. And what that did by adding an extra $600 to people's paychecks that were on unemployment, that gave them an extra $2,400 a month. Do you know how drastically people's lives were changed by having an extra $2,400 a month that had never experienced that before? People that were used to getting unemployment, they said, "This is nice." An extra six. Oh, this is what almost $4,000 a month looks like. Here in Michigan, I think we get for unemployment. If you're unemployed, you get I think it's like $300 a week or something like that. A little over $300. It's not very much. So to have something like this that you can build part-time in addition to what you're doing, and then if you decide to transition over, which once everything picks up steam, you'll probably transition over. It's just a phenomenal opportunity. Tashina earlier said she's working on her gold paycheck. Tashina, I don't know if you mentioned what you do, but you work in the automotive industry. Do they consider you white collar?
Yes, I'm white collar. I do facilities management. So I manage information, but if I worked at a plant, I would be the supervisor level. For anyone that works for General Motors and know how it works, I'm a 7th level. And so I'm one level underneath where a car is part of your salary, and therefore you make like $200,000. So I make 6 figures as a white collar middle level manager in the automotive industry.
And I asked that to Sheena because you still want that gold paycheck, right? So
yes, if I'm halfway between gold and platinum, I can get rid of my day job.
So I want to take that just to talk a little bit about leverage, because in all honesty, when you look at something like this, changing the way you make money is just as important as the amount of money that you make. One of the things that we mentioned earlier with network marketing is you're part of a team. Like you get to, and I think Lydia mentioned it, but to be able to make income passively or while you sleep, right? That's actually a game changing, because I know for me to take care of my family on my 9 to 5, I have to invest 50 hours working for somebody else. If I have 50 hours to put into my Young Living business, I could be making way more money than I will ever make working on my 9 to 5 job. And that's leverage. Most Royal Crown Diamonds, if they're a very active Royal Crown Diamond, may work 30 to 40 hours a week. May. And I put a big asterisk on that because most of them do not work 30, 40 hours a week. They work far less than that. So understanding that concept helps us to appreciate that we want to strive to get away from getting paid for our time. There's only 24 hours in a day. Get paid for what you know, your skill set, and leverage those things to be able to make money. So I always enjoy this graphic because it helps you to visualize where you want to be. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I want to open it up a little bit, because if this is your first time getting on here, I certainly will encourage you to get with the person that invited you to see how you could get started with Young Living. Like I mentioned, for such a low cost, the benefits of it is just, they well outweigh the cost. And even from a financial standpoint, like when I look at returns on investments, I'm like, yep, Young Living, there it is.
Yeah.
And so I do want to encourage you to do that. If you would like to have questions, or if anyone wants to add anything, feel free. But for those that may have to hop off and do something else, or get back to their lives, feel free to do that as well. We're not going to hold anyone longer than we need to.